Tajidile, de Peba Namzang, Tajakari Jogatama, Tajidile Shogish, the Superconi, Satakashi Shoaladini, Tata. Sakakilo Nima Kajukari, Yenaya, Suma Shivataman Workman Boyore, there is Shiji Niche, Kashegatrida, Totaki, Denasuman, Dakusumati, Dating Tisum, from Tan, the Bat, Tampira, Juba, somewhere. Ena, over home.
Dela.
Over home.
Yeshe Lama.
Oh, not a Jesus, go die.
Yeshe I should say Yeshe and Yeshe to everyone joining us online, also everyone here in person. I will continue to say a few words about the protector, Dharma protectors. And so there are many different types of protectors in the different lineages practiced throughout the Sakya, Gelo, Nyingma, the Kagyu lineages. And generally, there are wisdom protectors and there are mundane protectors. And then some people from different lineages say that, oh, this is a protector of my specific lineage or that specific lineage and so on. Or Jigten Sumgön said that those who hold on to system, a tenet system, they are just really following their ordinary perception. So they're just ordinary.
The Tumtashi Junta Yunti Niore, the Saturday song, Sawa Kanchi Dunna Yang, Junta Yunti Ni Som, Yika Yamna Banguya, Niba Sheke, Mujagu, so Sawa Chinji, Sawa Kare Duna, the Jung Kare do Yunti Kare do Yataki Tang, Sini or the Juma Voresi. That is Yunti Tetor de Majupa Yashot, Yunti, the Yunti that Mando, Jung, Jachach, Lane, Yunti Jachona, they dropped the Yunti Torching Cape, so they set up some talent to Tadilla, Junta Yunti Niongo Yore. Yan and a tower at the Taki Mandiba, like a tower, Tonda with them at Thompson, there are some time. The Tonta Ocean, they do you constantly have to go watch it with the song. Genie to pay it on them, Demba, Dubde, the Tonta Manso, Tontala Shins on Tatok Tawala, the Tesom Yongori, Tontati Tesomri, then Tatok Tawa did it, Tontayo Maris, or Chimbo Sumja Marik Tokin Chos, just this one. Don't Tawa Taylor, the Sakji men your mercy, Doki men your mercy, women men your mercy. 7 day looked in Namkar only, Namkar men such a me, but they don't tone 3 day looked on your age. They didn't at the Trantalatini, Samadi called Peshiva Mambo Yore, Kashi Junior, Kashi Suman Jernigo, Kashi Suman Land, that's in the Liber Tetomamo Yore. Trumta, Tamki, Bangati, Tetoma was down Bangore, Sumada dinner, Tetom Mambo de Bangitini, Sumza de Kare, Nag, San took the same the song got, San took the same day, Saji Matop the part, Sanga Java, San took same day, Chusumachi got it, Gia Teraptila. Two got it, Dandy, the new moment of the song got it. Riate Yog or Sumata, Toma Ria Jodi, Sumati, Kari Songodi, Mark some say the song what? Oh, yeah. Don't you go to Kari? Dandina Ekiva Numa, but the car god, Tiria Yog or Sumana. There is too much to say, Nanda. Yeshe Jikti Meng Mangbo Mata de, or Chusan, Chok Similar draw imaginary Chok, Drop Wings, or Dandi the new mobile draw imaginary Chok, than Jays. Jays, he was Meng Garrigator. Dream 70 till Jade. Lock one dream by Dujere. So Jikti Meganani Mizangi Yachegola. Lock one dream by the Jays. Lock one Ribakari. 70 Mongol Nucha, Rantable Piba, De Savati Shokimo Jenny, Jin Samumat on Delegatinata, they showed the Tigger of Jin what on the Tanjir Tavares. Oh, there is 17 round Pimba, 17 Manchel Kari go to Telki, the Pimba Tap, David Tabzomate, Lares, La Deni, the Rag Semite, to same with the young same with the Tata. Ragi something solorati Matia Diritis or Dandi such a ten days or Jason Dandi the Tatin Jays. That is a difference. Dandi the only something Ramji Dara Cha, Dang Chadang to Wason, Tini on the same decision one day. Ta Chadang and Jelly, Chaba China so what is on the 차다금 쪼가니 소리 쳤어가 차다 때려 차로 들이 또 송사디 하고 송사디가 사족 쳔도 송고 송저티 뉴모벌레다 뉴모 담지 지아치란 방법을 동에 들로 뉴모 송고서 이 사람을 따라 들이서 거래지.
So now when we think about the different systems, the tenet systems, we can always find both faults and qualities. In the Shakya lecture, the words of advice, the Shakya, it says that so whatever activity you undertake, you always should put faults and qualities side by side and see which one is greater. And then based on that comparison, you either abandon or undertake the activity. If it appears that the faults are greater, then you abandon the activity. But if the qualities are greater, then you do it. And so that is even if it's not entirely one or the other, but if one is predominant, then that determines what you will do. And that goes for any activity that we do in the Lama or in the world. First, what this verse is telling us is we have to analyze, we investigate, we analyze what are the qualities and what are the faults of anything that we do. And if there are more faults, then don't do it. And if there are more qualities, then do it. For example, if like you have 70% is good quality and then 30% is flawed, then you should still do it because it has more qualities than faults. So anyways, all different systems, viewpoints or tenets possess both faults and qualities. And only ideally, when one actually realizes the ultimate truth, one transcends all tenet systems. And, so then there is one transcends both qualities and faults. For as long as we do hold a system, a tenet system, that is how it is. And so in the Gongchik, Jiten Sungen said that as long as you rely on the conventional doubts can still arise. You just transcend that through the ultimate view. So on the ultimate level, ultimately, there is no tenet system. And so what Jiten Sungen said was being untouched by the three great ones is the supreme realization. The three great ones he referred to as the practice of Mahamudra, Dzogchen, and Madhyamaka. These are the three great ones. And remaining untouched by them is the supreme realization. So on the ultimate level, all these terms of Mahamudra and Dzogchen and Madhyamaka, or the middle way, they don't actually exist. All these concepts and names don't exist. There is just the nature of mind, which is like space. And whoever sees just that sees the reality. And now, from the perspective of the tenet systems, though, there are the protectors, and about that, people have different opinions. They see different protectors in different ways. For example, they call some of them demons, and then they call some of them gods or deities, and so forth. But what you first have to do is abandon or give up the doubts in your mind. And in order to give up doubts in your mind, first you need to understand what is the real meaning of a protector. What is it that we actually want to ask them to protect? What we want to protect is our bodhicitta. So that is what we should request of them. Until I attain enlightenment throughout all my life, me to protect my bodhicitta. May I not lose my bodhicitta. Help me to protect against self-grasping, the afflictive emotions. So that is the request we should make to the protectors. The request is to please sustain, safeguard my love and my compassion, and protect me from self-grasping and the afflictive emotions. So that is the sort of request we should make of them. And don't, in terms of doubts, you don't need to think too much about are they really worldly or not, and so on. What you should look at rather is that are they going to help me increase my love, my loving kindness? Then they are support. Or if you ask, oh, are they more going to increase my self-grasping or afflictive emotions, or is this reliance on this protector going to increase my self-grasping and afflictive emotions? If that's the case, then it becomes a demon, because what we call demon is not really the other being, but it's something arising within your own mind. So what does the term really demon mean? So in Tibetan it's J. And so what that refers to is anything that is like a kind of a wrong, that has a corrupt kind of aspiration. So it is a misguided, a corrupt aspiration. And what is that? What is such a misguided aspiration? It is the wish to benefit oneself at the cost of many beings. So in order to benefit oneself, if one is fine with harming many beings without any thought of others at all, then that is that demon, that is that J. And then on the other hand, if you think that thought of I want to benefit as many sentient beings as possible, and you are thinking of what do they need, what do most sentient beings need, what makes them happy. If you think in this way, then that is a god. So god or demon that mainly exists within your own mind. And whoever possesses love is actually a god, like Chenrezig. And whoever possesses self-grasping, that thought of self-grasping is a demon. So that this fixation, this thinking of me, that is the demon. And so how is that self-grasping a demon? Is because if you have self-grasping, if you just think about yourself, then naturally negative emotions arise from that: attachment, anger, and ignorance, and so forth. And then when that happens, your Buddha nature becomes covered up with attachment and anger. It becomes muddied, just like pure water mixed with earth, with mud. So it becomes muddy. First, what we need to understand in terms of relying on a protector is what it is that we are actually requesting of them. And that what needs to be protected, and that is bodhicitta. We want to request to sustain our bodhicitta and to be protected from our afflictive emotions and negative karmas, which are the actual causes of suffering for all future lifetimes. So this is the kind of petition or request that we want to put forward to those protectors.
That's right.
So Rinpoche?
Oh.
Liksom.
Tani taa, dira, chūyōla jantā chūpa kārī pūna, tō tāng sō kā chūpa kārī sāng sōr tamchī la tani, rūng yé tani rūng, kō chō sī jīn rūng tani, tāpa sāngchī jī chī khām tamchī, tē tamchī la rāngi tēpā tā mūgī, chūpa tsara tani, chūpa rāla tēla, chūpa rāma tamchī la tani chūpa mbaka yō tani, 이제 그 대파 먹은데 들이 주바 삼보는 저는 들이 대답이 주바더니 건드서 무슨 가지고 내 주고요. 자. 들이 된 공부 용대인 용대. 다 은행 거서로 빠지랬다. 트러블 탐지리 다 트러블 거리는 이제는 공부 용대인 용시 받이 다디 상 속에서 갈 맹만 보려고 그래. 팔라만나 신나 소나 나나 놀려고 맹만 보다 맹만 보다 줘야 요만데 돈을 찜기 탐지래 강서도 핀바 점니 동해를 좀니 핀두 로진 탐지가 만만히 봐 사양 맞게 봐 다른 사람 쪽선을 남는 효과 탐지래 대 탐지들이 고보용 띵년 좋은데 들이 대야 많이 받다 다다 인직이 하나들이 돌아지는 생기 탐지 당이 똑똑히 등이 셉지 좀 고치 잡고잡지 때라 통하면 셉지를 등에 때문에 탑지다 다를 적 린차 불운이 좋은데 대를 적 인이 좋은데 대상을 대 탑지를 가리고 탐지라 생고마라 사적 셈들 가요리 사기는 사적 셈들 초발이 요 말에서 배는 강의에 대해서다 사기 좀 되나 셀 도도 기본이 자라 공 맥다가 말했지. 오 심지들은 니게지는 자기 존재에 약게 먹고도 그랬지. 어디에 보도서 돼. 그래서 산축생 생기는 니게지 주부 초들이 생고만 주바 생기는 니게지. 그 니게가 생고만 되게 뱅거리 가래세는 뱅거리데 생고만이 동해가 짜대 위성습제 동해 단디니 송요래 단디니 시당 따먹 따송노래 전나 시당 따먹선데 대래서들 냐와야다 돌아서서래 대 탐지라 뭐인 초도 좀 받아 사족소리 주 삼대지 뭐 따따는 전에 딱 갔다 다 이실람에 가다 쭉쭉비 예바송도 주양 대리 소가양 대리 주바양 대리 총호량 대리 대시송 주바 탐지들이 대리 사고래지 뒤동다듯이 시소는 오 조제대 또 산적 세문이 다 셀치보도는 가리리 저거리 빼나 마속보도는 대당시 오 주방군이 두어다 산속 셈들이 너도 격송되네 대학보도 없이 너도 격송되는 산속 셈들 적되는다 주방 적도 싸우는들이 서로 산속 셈을 뒤로 정거래서 주절라
So then in terms of what are we offering to these recipients of offering? So first of all, no matter what kind of offering or in whichever context the offering is made, so for example, it may be a protector offering, or it may be a Gana Chakra feast offering, or a smoke offering, sang or a sur smoke offering, and so forth. So there's many different occasions for making offerings. And so generally, or in the truth practice as well, so generally there are 4 kinds of guests who receive our offerings. So there are the guests of our devotion and veneration, which are the three jewels. And then there are the guests of qualities, which are the protectors. And then there are the guests of our compassion, sentient beings of the six realms. And then there are the guests to whom we owe karmic debts, which are the karmic creditors, the various spirits and so forth. So first, when we make offerings to the guests of our veneration and devotion, so that is made to the Buddhas, and that this offering is made with faith and devotion. And so we think that our faith and devotion transforms into offering goddesses, and these then present clouds of Samantabhadra offering clouds of offerings to those Buddhas. And then the second guests are the guests of qualities, the dharma protectors, the various protectors, that are actually various emanations of the Buddhas too. And for example, when we perform a smoke offering in the morning, so in that smoke offering, we encounter all kinds of different names. There's a whole list of different kinds of names, like the local gods and the territorial gods and elementals and so forth. There's all these different beings that are mentioned, and actually these names could be endless. But in brief, these are all beings who want to help and benefit sentient beings. And they are not human beings, they are spirit beings. And they are on the path to enlightenment. So these are the guests of qualities or the protectors. And then there is the guests of our compassion, the sentient beings. And then there is the two lower ones, the guests of our compassion, and then the karmic creditors. And so those karmic creditors, it also refers to those like more like malevolent beings in this world, and also in the spirit world. But in this world, for example, there are those really destructive kings and leaders of countries who cause a lot of destruction in their places out of selfishness and so forth. And so all of these are the guests for compassion and karmic creditors. And so what are we offering to them? What is it that they all need? So really the highest best offering that we can make to these guests is the offering of bodhicitta. That's really the best offering. For example, if you offer that to a Buddha, let's say first you put a piece of gold, you place that in front of the Buddha as an offering. The Buddha wouldn't even look at that piece of gold. But if you have compassion for sentient beings, the Buddha will smile. So that is the best offering. And that is also the best offering for sentient beings, because that is really what benefits them the most if you have compassion for them. And how does that benefit them? It is because the root of their suffering, especially their suffering in the three lower realms, arises from their self-grasping. And from that arise hatred, ignorance, and greed. And these lead to birth in the hell realms as hungry ghosts and as animals. So the best offering we can make is the offering of bodhicitta, of loving kindness. And so we think that offering that the offering that we make becomes this mind of love and bodhicitta. And Yeshe Lama actually explained that yesterday in the context of the Chöd teachings really extensively. And that is really excellent because this is the essence of all these practices of Chöd, and also the protector offering, the Sorka, and the smoke offering, the store for the deceased, and the sang for the living, and the Tok offering, a Gana Chakra offering. All of these offerings have this single essential meaning that we need to understand. And that is what we actually want to offer is a mind of bodhicitta. And so, because when we make an offering, we need to have this one thing. We need to know what is that thing that I want to actually offer. And that is like having this this kind of solid piece of gold in your hands, like you become like a rich person. And so that is that one thing that you want to have when you make an offering. And if you just have that, then any offering is just perfect.
Zina check to the chimother. Carpu chulang umbar gawatangti. Zina the yundi of the pola dala with mati. Tate of the safari theatre. Carpu chulang umbar gawa kare. Oh, Nawasaji Baragawa Chipose, they married. Carpu choose about treat the kare salvatore. Treat the something like the same thing, some pin doge, they're gunny, they some jelly, Capuchulang Magawata, they dog, they like that, they some chi, they bought some chilla, that of chile, Chotola, Chobamba, and Koto Tabia Kare, Chula, Koto Soto, the native or lay Jim de Sanchok, Yamni, or Tini, the age that mera, Yin, Rocket, about Choptaba. Ben Miss was in there, or the Bangot of the robot jet away, never get away. Then you charge the theatre of the Rita, you taught a nigger, you like a dagger, church on some mother, church on the Coto, Yamani, Chichi, Pani, there, theatre of the Menatini, Tadi, Sangers when you lit it up, all out the last all over the Mingman boy, the theatre of Jella, Tata, Musitani, young sister, Joseph Gerato, just Garchen the materials. This occasion, you did that pull out. Capuchula number, you did that pull out your head. So on, so got the one. Don't so.
And so one important point is that there's this line here in that short, the three roots, Solka on the second page, of those dwelling in the 3,000 worlds, all who take delight in wholesomeness, hosts of earth lords of this very land, then there's Pola, Dala, Verma, and so on. So all of these are different names of various beings, like protector beings. And so what is the important point here is that those who take all of those who take delight in wholesomeness. So you may wonder then, are we just talking about Buddhists now? But this is not only for Buddhists actually, because what is the so-called dharma actually? It is love, loving kindness, and that applies to anyone. It is anyone who wants to benefit sentient being, and those who rejoice when sentient beings are being cared for. So those are those kind of beings that we are making this offering to here, the host of earth lords, and then there's all this list of other beings mentioned here. So we're making the offering to these local spirits and earth lords, spirits, and so forth. So why do they delight in the dharma? Why do they take delight in wholesomeness? It is because they have seen the results of suffering and karma, and they practice bodhicitta, and they want to and are able to help and protect sentient beings to become free from suffering. For example, like in the world, if a benevolent, wealthy person, for example, a benevolent, wealthy person can help a poor person if they want to help them. So it is just like that. They have an ability to help others, and they want to help others, and then they help them, whether it's in the Dharma or in any other, in a mundane sense. And so there are many different names used here and also in the smoke offerings, but that essentially it refers to the same, and that is, we are speaking to those who delight in bodhicitta, who practice bodhicitta, and we express our gratitude to them by making this offering to them.
Janara ti lo so yore, pula ti lo so yore, hunje ti so 가동这个人的没的的阿姆多萨拉说的不用盲目去马虎去的带有的，这里这里你到这么着呢，这里加卡囊呢，这里加卡个东西了，这里让去慢慢个东西，让说那个些些说，这一些大人就说阿姆多那的龙波是真的，这个是主要原因。只要是他的逻辑就不讲那么对了，这里他逻辑的系统，他对呢，他龙巴刚从来就大从这那个帕金嘛给他扎心不对，没扎心不他们去，我说这你从那忙着把戏的，他这里说说这这里这他多边有的这到这样的，多呢也来就他们就那个帕金嘛给帕金嘛从那上那去吧，对的，这他们就是3年就全部。걔는 들고도 또 체는 좀 들고도 그래서 나보자 이제 내고도 나보자 너 거주 하고도 그래서 들이지 피주상这个지와라 되는들이 연내 종목의 시 대답을 머리다 라닌 전절기에는 전절기 살로 되라 되는들이 요 칸타게 데벨롭도 되려 연거리다다 쌍는 쌍 디바르디 요리 야만가베 송자리 돈바 탐트 트름트 당게지 쌍 탐치 동들이 지나는 때라 다 쌍다 저간데 피는도 가래서를 피게도 다 쌍데 지자데비 자치모를 데리고 와야 보는도나 들이대도 돈나 파마기고 레사 들이린 차불로들 땅은이랑을 봐 프린츠다 제야 들이양다 마초가 때려 속아나니 들이지 셰송이사 대탐지 내가 양 동안요래 대탐지들 좀 경기 좋은데 대탐지 가래를 보나 내자 민직데 주상 쪽 셈데 직보요래 생고만을 주발 사적 셈초래 생고만 로바자 사적 셈초래 디상 쪽 셈데 가래 그런 거는 어디나 땅에서 까반들한테 사지 샥자트베 다 잠이서 사지를 삼세티 다 타이장도나지 동강군대와 남칸나지 권도군대마 타이장도 집어나지 디량이 따라게 주도로 다 산적선도 도말리지 디산적선도 네 산적선 선거인들 사지 샥자트베 다 산적 체미베 사마트 대성거요에 대종들이 강동도 그 셈지 담실에 대야 요리 피다야 요리 또속 요리 배는 자카드가 록tor티르티 록tor티 조야 요만 빼테나지 사지 샥자도 삼세 되게 그리고 서로 같이 그리 다들 나로 제야 또라 요리스 강리 사지 샥자도 다 삼지 잠소 싱포테레스 대지는 데리다다지 어디 손들 나서는 강그 삼당 년지 첫대래 랭통사 적cep지라서 거서 다달라마 개비신이 삼지 사지 샥자도 삼지 요만 대래띠네 들이 메르지 알라우나 들이 메르 개비신이 자침보 주자 자침보 또니 들이 심신 도자침보 지니 다지티 말록 다바처럼 이스니다 지티가 피바다 내가 좀이 대탐지리 상 대탐지 대답체로 들이 라야 삼보때 대상촉sep도 들어와야 조다 대탐지 그 조바당와 대탐지 내가 대서 생오마 탐지 고소 사촉sep도 다디지 다 소로 고소 신감을 제시 신감을 제를 대양 고소 숭나를 저래 대야 dob치를 줘 그리고서 달럭데 마가르 자르당 마돌 저우마 심바 옥용도서 들이 좋은 제tin 르독 니기 노데 마가르 자르데 종이 성심니 야리 토리스나 제사 토리스는 제들이 다 나오나 대삼절 머리 토마토 장바이와 주라 고초스면 잡수 조시바 우마스마 오공들 대잡이도 많이 안 들라가 요나 다 줄라 사촉sep지를 제타바 사촉sep지타바 대답을 미게데 들이 사촉sep지에서는 들이 사촉sep을 살도 들이 대sep지는 피바 자치고 너도 대들 졸록 대섬들이 네 송섬지 sep지담지 토리서 나다 토리섬지 sep지담지를 사촉sep지 사촉sep지에서 왔다면서 사지에 살라 단도 보고 사지 살사기에도 들어봐 장미바가들이 양 sep지 도제걸 홀로 대사들이 다보 sep지 담지까지 상기들이 양 sep지 도제 대도 배우고 대도 다시를 들은 좋은지 집하고 와서
So then the various local spirits and those earth lords and so on, the way we should understand them also is they may have been our parents or elders of former times, people, significant people of our various places and regions. And now there are, for example, very precious people like leaders and or our parents or generals and so forth who were good people who then encountered all kinds of obstacles and then they died and then they took birth as such a local spirit or earth lord and so forth. And so actually this is a tradition that is practiced in both in China and also in Tibet. So going also back to the time of Gar Dongzhen, a previous Garchen incarnation. So his family line came from Amdo in Tibet, and during that time of Gar Dongzhen, the family line was a part of like the kind of the ruling class of Tibet. So they were, he was a general and kind of war general of Tibet. And so then, amidst all kinds of turmoil and conflict during that time, but also during those times, and there were many of some of these family line, those generals who tried to benefit their country or their people. Some of them actually committed suicide to protect others, and then they they died from that, and then became like a local spirit of that place. And so then Mahasidda Rinpoche, who then also wrote a Sekye Magbudan, like a libation offering to these local spirits in the Amdo region who kind of were stuck in that existence of a local spirit. And so it helps to really bring those stories to mind and understand them. And for example, see that there are those beings like really precious people dear to us who have done good things for others, like our parents or somebody protecting their country, like a general, for example, and so forth, that then may have died, but because they've had some power while they were alive, they become these more powerful local protectors of local spirits. And they are sort of stuck in that existence without going into the lower realms, without kind of going on, but they kind of stay in this bardo consciousness state and still retaining the power that they've had when they were alive. And it is very beneficial to remember them and make offerings to them. That's why we make offerings to those local spirits and earth lords and so forth. It is because they have died with great love and compassion, doing good things. So then if we cultivate great compassion for them and we make these offerings, then that makes them become more powerful again, and then they can do powerful things to help others. So in that way, we are assisting them. For example, there are stories of how they have done prevented a famine in the country, or they're averting a war, or they're contributing to harmony and peace in a certain country or certain place. So that is also actually part of the smoke offering ritual. That is one of the meanings that is included in the smoke offering ritual. And then there is this, there is this line by the former Sharmapa that speaks to that. So it speaks to exactly the meaning of all these earth lords and local spirits. But that's in the Solka offering protector to the offering to the protector practice. And so it's just good to understand what's the benefit of this, why we're making these offerings to these various beings, these spirit beings. because we should regard them as these precious beings who have done good things, like our parents and ancestors and so forth. And then there are those karmic creditors. So then there are the guests, which are the karmic creditors. There are, for example, those who have died in a more outright conflict. Maybe they were at war and they have died with these negative thoughts of rivalry and conflict. And then they have died. And so as a result of that, now temporarily they are in that state of more suffering. They are also included among the guests of our compassion, the beings of the six realms. So in brief, the single medicine that heals 100 sicknesses is bodhicitta only. There is really no higher, no greater offering than the offering of bodhicitta. That's the best thing we can offer to those higher beings. And that's the greatest way to help the sentient beings, the ordinary sentient beings. And we can see that from the example of the Buddha of this eon, the Buddha Shakyamuni. Buddha Shakyamuni accumulated bodhicitta throughout 3 endless eons. And that bodhicitta on a relative level is like a vast ocean. And on the ultimate level, it is like space. And so that is what we also bring to mind when we, for example, take the Bodhisattva vow. We bring that immeasurable bodhicitta, immeasurable love of the Buddha to mind, and we promise and resolve that I will cultivate such a immeasurable mind of love, like the Buddha Shakyamuni. And that is what you then give to sentient beings. And it is something that you can give to sentient beings, and it is something that can help all sentient beings. For example, one country may have an ability to help many other countries, and it's just kind of an inexhaustible source of charity. And so similarly, the Buddha Shakyamuni is our inexhaustible source of charity. And that love that he has given us, that has the power to still help us, and that has the power that we can also pass on to others to help them. So it's the great love that the Buddha Shakyamuni had cultivated in this eon. And then in the supplication of the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra, in the beginning, there's a reference to the inexhaustible ocean-like treasure, water treasure, the ocean-like treasure of bodhicitta. It says whoever has this oceanic mind or treasure mind of bodhicitta. So that is not so that's that verse, and so that is what really brings sentient beings in this world and beyond great benefits. If you have that is all you need to benefit sentient beings. And so if you make these kind of offerings with that in mind to the Dharma protectors, then this kind of activity becomes more potent because it also gives them back their power when we make these offerings to them. For example, whether it is through the church practice or other dedication prayers or any offering that we make. We always want to make that offering with a mind of bodhicitta, because that is what will purify the self-grasping inner minds of sentient beings, which is their cause of suffering. And when that becomes purified, then those sentient beings may be born in the Pure Lands, where they themselves then become more powerful protectors, and then they can go about helping other sentient beings in turn. So it goes in circles like that. And so this is how we actually benefit all these guests, in particular the guests of our compassion and the karmic creditors. So essentially there are 3 levels of benefit, and that is shown by that prayer, I will will liberate those not liberated, or I will release those not released, I will liberate those not liberated, and I will give breath to those without breath. So the first one, I will release those not released. That means I will first help those sentient beings in the lower realms to become released and take birth in the higher realms. And then secondly, I will liberate those not liberated, means that those who are already born in the higher realms, I will help them not to waste their precious human life, but instead help them take refuge in the three jewels. And then I will give breath to those without breath. Then those who already have refuge, I will help them generate the mind of bodhicitta, which will bring them to ultimate enlightenment. And then once they have attained enlightenment, they in turn will again fulfill the vast benefit of sentient beings. And so in this way, the benefit of others is accomplished endlessly as it goes in circles like that. We benefit others, and by doing that, we are enabling them to also act for the sake of others. And so that becomes more powerful, and it goes around like a wheel. And then, so the point is that we, through these offerings, we want to help sentient beings reach enlightenment gradually, so that they themselves then will be able to benefit other sentient beings. So that is the whole purpose. So.
Ziran choba kogri kichimo tingzing nga tang sa je sanapa de tingi di kare de tingi di ta khode yiwa dechi kimbu kong long ke o jawa sabji shilong tek de roar dog semji tamji dechi kimbu yore ona te tamji ne kap tamji semji ta nang na ya charom ta re se charom te japtin 사적 세계 주울랩터는 고속 담아 상제에서 땡징 대래 나다가 사자 가래는 것서 쌍종대 다들 나독 사독 네 나다 하자 사야 자치불이 네 라대 토지 문스랍 대래들이 나다 사제에서 합대 소바와 주다서 이제는 마저가 동반이래스 이제 동반이래스 람지 값을 내가 로면 처박을 도와를 독차서 사제심이 차서 라주 처박 앞에더니 남아서 왔다다가 봐요 뭐저 지안남고 사다 냠바 죽고와 마다운 거를 좀 해봐 대저 줘봐요레스 대들이 내가 와로 그래서 저렇게 있어서 너봐 서서 다다당이 당 레낭바 자진 담들 삼바요레스 렌로라는 수 삼바다 담바 디지린 자나 안 나와. 나들 요래. 요래. 다시 쪽지. 대삽제 쪽지 뭐라는데 대좀 무슨 점조 요래. 절대 요래. 강리디 롱更이방 아디지. 저기 바닥과 진정 콜로 내게 봐 오민치기 남카레스. 내게 봐 오민치기 남카레스. 저기 바닥과 진정 콜로리 사제 삼제 대섭제사 이마 딱걸 속아서 되어서 잡아지는 거 추기 바닥과 집은 뭐지 사족샘 셰기요레스 콜기 봐 삼제 사족샘 마지 로아르도 샘지 담지 대식이 몸이 찍자면 르베제도 사족샘 지름제더니 메토 사무카게네 되더니 메토는 저들이 로요레스 페테타오레스 로강이방 같이 하고서는 당은에 되는 것은 좀 좋지를 메토서 저대서는 저죠 다른서 쳐다 남이 쳐봐 밤나 늘 납상 같이 했던 거리 들이 갑양 쳐봐 감수는 심기 담지 유모라 단 잡을는데 됐다고 세상도 차도를 내가 똑잘해서는 그냥 잡아만 밥 쳐봐 감도라 이런 거 속을 사죠 심기는 쳐봐 밥 거리지 무슨 지지 잡아 밤나 롬베트 시담이 ram지가 미인 거래 대도 쌍다 썰 내가 담지 소칸다 내가 핑거리 주바람지 이게 요래지 라강 납각을 라강 쳐보다 있나 뒤는 사제 담지 진체 메바 토바토데지 마수 가래로라 대가 요구줄로 요래지 대 고슬로 요래지 대들 딱 봐주죠 콜로서 지금 로그기만 하고서는 들이 데이터는 데이터다지 하다 사자 사자가 되는데 남마사와 다다가 바이올라발 내가 영화 대지가 삼세가 좋아들 바이오면서 남각하고 남괴가 참 주부리가 잡소서 대로 소소하게 떡서로나 내 생부터 대마도이 대람지가 참대 요리서 전도 상을 가면 하다 사야지 하다 사자지만 하디 하독 사자가리 사자리 내 제야들 자들들 바이오면서 사자들 게 자다 동인저 요리 하다 자다 볼로야 그 사바다 바이오면서 애들이 자타와 지나들이 동강하고 책자봐 책동주봐지 자다 동인전들이 르지 사자다 나가 자다니 마소와다 다인가 바요메쇼 백근데 사와사하가 사와르레만 가나서 사지 삼체가 타고 맞췄지 심체식도 동들이 네 같이 보요리
And so then for the offerings, so that's also one important thing to understand, and that is the power of the offerings comes from like three things: Samadi, mantra, and mudra. So first of all, what is the Samadi? So all beings possess Buddha nature. That pervades both samsara and nirvana. So all sentient beings, even though they appear temporarily as ordinary sentient beings of the six realms, like an ice block, they still possess Buddha nature. And therefore, whenever the warmth of bodhicitta arises in them, that ice block will then melt, and they all then become Buddhas. They are true Buddhas. So that is the meaning of Samadi here. And then there's mantra and mudra. In the smoke offering practice, the smoke offering practice begins with 6 mantras and 6 mudras that are very significant. And they endow the offering with a potency through the power of the individual deities' compassionate aspiration and blessings. So there are 6 deities, 6 mantras, and 6 mudras that go along with those mantras. So, for example, it may begin with Om Svabhava, that mantra. So, in the first mantra, what we bring to mind is, and together with the mudra, with the hand, is that everything is primordially empty. Nothing possesses any true inherent existence. And then, however, just temporarily on the path, sentient beings appear as confused, as confused sentient beings with deluded perceptions that need to be purified. So temporarily, there appears to be a difference between Buddhas and sentient beings. Then when we say Nama Sarva Tathagata Bayo Vishamukhe, so here that is very significant. And the mudra that goes along with it is too. So with this bayo, saying bayo, we are making this circle with our hands. And so this represents this vastness. So so it's like vast. All those beings, everything is actually empty, and this empty vastness. Or later when we say Jnana Avalokita and so forth. So what this mantra accomplishes is that temporarily, within the 6 realms of samsara, there are those sentient beings who may have negative intentions due to certain karmic tendencies that are present. And so Jnana Avalokita mantra aligns it all, brings all into harmony, makes everyone be harmonious and brings everything and everyone into alignment. So, and that also goes along with its own mudra. So each of these 6 mantras is associated with a certain deity and a certain mudra. And through the compassionate prayer of deity, a certain quality is actually accomplished. So through the mudra and the mantra, we transform it into that in particular quality. So why is that? Can that happen? It is because it is due to the 5 certainties of Sambhogakaya. So there is the certainty of time, and that is the timelessness, the endless wheel of timelessness. The certainty of place is the pure land, Akarnishta, the certainty of the teacher, that is the Buddhas, actually all the Buddhas of the 3 times. And actually the Buddhas of the 3 times are also connected to that endless wheel of time. That is, the Buddhas of the 3 times, they are actually always doing practice. So whatever we are reading, they're also reciting that. So they're always in the practice. They're always doing sort of puja, and doing the practice. And then there's the certainty of the dharma, which is the Mahayana. And then there's the certainty of the retinue, which is those who practice that, the bodhisattvas who practice bodhicitta. And so, so recognizing that all sentient beings possess Buddha nature, then through the power of these 5 certainties of the Sambhogakaya, we can gradually liberate and benefit sentient beings, which is just like nurturing the seed of a flower and slowly helping that seed to grow into an actual flower. So it begins with planting that seed and then nurturing it with water, just having rain fall onto that seed so it can develop into a flower. And so sometimes we may also go through a period of drought where there is no rain falling. And that is those times where the afflictions of sentient beings has become very coarse. Their thoughts of hatred, anger, jealousy become very powerful, and they engage in activities driven by these emotions. And that is just like being in a state of drought where no rain is falling. And that's also the significance of bringing down the blessings, or the siddhis, which is like a rain shower falling down. And when we then cause this rain falling down on this dry place, then again, naturally, we are helping those flowers to grow. And so all these practices of the smoke offering, sang and sur, and sorka, protector, offering practices, all of these practices, they help with this process of raining down onto sentient beings. And all of the offerings that we make to them also naturally exist in space. They exist just like a vast temple, a great temple in space where everything is represented. And there, within that temple, all the Buddhas resides, continuously reciting whatever we are reciting, continuously being in practice. So that is due to that wheel of time, the timeless wheel of time of the 5 certainties of the Sambhogakaya. So that is the meaning of mantra and mudra. So again, for example, when you say that mantra, Nama Sarva Tathagata Vayu Bishop Mukhibe, so that, for example, represents the 5 male and the 5 female Buddhas. So through the 5 male and female Buddhas, offering clouds fill the entire space. So when you move your hands up in this circle, this bai, or you move your hands, then that is the offering substances filling the reaches of space. And that is what comes up in your mind, even if you just offer a little sprinkle of tea. But in your mind, what you think in your mind, what you feel in your mind is what's most important. So each of these 6 mantras has its own mudra. So there are 6 mantras with 6 mudras. And they are all very specific. And you should not rush through them, but really take your time and make these gestures intentional. So, for example, bye. So you really make this intentional, vast movement, making this circle in space, and really saying it slowly and with intention, like bye, or making this large mudra, because that is also significant because of the language. The Sanskrit sound of bio carries the meaning, and that's the quality of Sanskrit. Each of these sounds is very concise, but carrying a really vast meaning. And therefore, it's good not to rush through those mantras, but do them slowly and intentional. Because if you rush through them, then it loses all its meaning, really. And what's important is that the sound and the meaning become one, that they kind of come together. Therefore, you should do it slowly, because when you do it slowly, then your mind can really focus on the meaning of what you're performing here one pointedly, and this is really what makes it powerful.
That's right. Oh, Trita, Zabalita, Tajakala, Yupatama, Devipatama, touch the ratio, the start of Julius Monam, you touch the same Java you're bearing, so same jam to your Kari jam to the same thing of your pingo, some lord, the Kadikina, 3 Saji Tamsi, same that you watch up your then was Saji, overlaid, select Tamsi, Mambo, you send the part to attack. The time the Sanji, Mato, should you or Mary. This of the Sanji comes up the same thing that we take the dinner, or never told you, they do know your data yesterday, Samadi, Tola, Tashi direction.
Now I would like to say Dashi Delek to all of you who are following us on the live stream, and everyone who has come here in person. Dashi Delek, and long life to all of you. And I pray that the bodhicitta will arise within your mind. And also remember that our minds are never separate. Our minds are always together. How are our minds together? It is whenever you have the wish to benefit sentient beings, whenever that is in your mind, we are actually one. You are actually one with all the Buddhas. And that's actually something that also, on a larger scale, it's like a science where we can make it all really vast, where everything becomes really vast, this vastness of beings. And then the quality of the Buddha is that we can also condense it all into one. All is kind of is contained within one Buddha, within one mind. And so all the Buddhas of the 3 times and all the sentient beings in the 3 realms of samsaric existence actually fundamentally one. So Dashi Delek to all of you.
Oh, I just got you the Yeshe Lama. Can't Tata, Sakchi, Nati, son them. Lama San, Chok Sem, so on the Lama San, did take the chip or some Matama. The Doha, Chutamsi, same with the San Chok Sem, the San Chok Sem, the Lama so at Lama, the San Chok Sem, the simply don't say him. Lama, the second body chipari. Detail Lama Chichukari, Sancho Samje Yori, Samje, Raga Pata Chumata, my same thing, Tamse, Sabat say Bibari, Sabat say Bibati, Semna Kadu Shanaya, Lamata Sajira, since them take the Topanambula song. They dodo some tea, Sabat say Bibati Kadushina, Lama Teri is in Wizzy, Tanguni Lama Tangi to Yori. Lam Zoglantina Lama Maret, or Nekati, they say, okay, Lenina, lower body. Tartuk Lama the Samsi. The some Maji Ravaya Yomari. Dartuku, two Samsi Lamadana. That's Lamata Madrava, Lamata Sajita Madrava. That the Hachakachi take Dodo Chikri.
So one important point I think that I still wanted to say is that also in that prayer application of the fivefold path of Mahamudra, it also says that I supplicate to the guru that is bodhicitta. So the actual Lama, the actual guru is bodhicitta. Just think about these words, because that really unites the meaning of all the sutras and the tantras into the mind. So all comes down to that mind. And that mind is the mind of bodhicitta. And that mind of bodhicitta, that is the true Lama. That Lama with bodhicitta benefits beings. And actually, that's the only difference between you and the Lama. Because in terms of the Buddha nature, you're the same. You have the same Buddha nature. But the Lama has bodhicitta and wants to benefit all sentient beings. So, and that love is not just limited to one's spouse and children, but it encompasses all sentient beings. And whenever that love, that compassion arises in your mind, then your mind and the Lama's mind become one. It is said that I'm a yogin who has realized the Guru's mind, the Buddha's mind, and my own mind are one. That is the actual Guru. When love arises within you, when bodhicitta arises within you, and then you recognize the actual Guru. So the actual Guru is not the Lama in a physical form. So the physical form may appear temporarily in a material form, kind of as a means for communicating something, but the ultimate Lama is actually love, bodhicitta. That will never separate from you until you attain enlightenment. If you don't separate from that Lama, if you never separate from love, then you're never separate from the Lama. And if you're never separate from the Lama, you are never separate from the Buddha. But this is the most important point that I wanted to mention. That really summarizes it all. Tashidelek.
Nara Gosha Nara Tashibo Songway. Take the time is him the song Yahweh. So took same like Yeshe Biba, that are Samartawa, Tanichi. So took same like Yeshe Yomar, said the second year Yomari, Chiquari, the Yeshe Biba, or San took same that day Hakosona, Yeshe Yomari, Medok Sanatri, the Sakanatri, Lamatsaji, Java Mila Chayo is.
And one more thing that comes from the tantric confession, and so in there, there's also something that a few words that are good to remember. That is, bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, transcends birth and death. The thought of this and future lives is exhausting. So what it means is that when you understand bodhicitta, you can understand that there is no real birth and death. And if you understand that, then you're never separate from the Lama in this and future lives. You're never separate from the Buddha.
In the Yellow Prayer Book, Long Life, page 20. For this realm encircled by snow-covered mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness without exception. Tenzin Gyatso, Lord Chenrezig, may your life remain steadfast until the end of samsara. embodiment of the three jewels, great being who upholds and increases the teachings of the Shakya lion, you perfectly guide others with your excellent deeds. May you, the precious Guru, who accomplishes everything spontaneously, live long. Holder of the teachings of Lord Drigungpa, great sovereign of the three jewels, through the power of your peerless compassion and the holy Dharma's peaceful light, you bring relief to beings. May your life be long. Known in the noble land as Ayadeva, you emanated into the Gar clan of eastern Tibet as Chodingpa, the hard son of Jigten Gonpo. May the life of glorious Garchen remain steadfast for 100 eons. 26. May the teaching of the great Drigungpa Ratnashri, Master of interdependence, omniscient Lord of Dharma, who has seen all knowable things, be upheld through teachings and practice, through hearing, reflecting, and meditating until the end of existence. Your 1,000 arms are the 1,000 wheel-turning kings. Your 1,000 eyes are the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate eon. Your love is boundless like space. I supplicate the Bodhisattva Chenrezig.
This concludes our winter event and a most auspicious way to bring in the new year with all of our bodhicitta fortified and our pith instructions from our beloved Lama, His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche. We're forever grateful for your incredible, perfect bodhicitta, and thank you for continually guiding us. This is an offering from everybody here and from the Institute. May you live long and healthy. We want to thank Yeshe Lama so very much for your really illuminating teachings on the Chud practice. So many people really enjoyed and learned so much from you. So thank you very much for all of your wonderful teachings. We also want to thank our visiting Lama from Korea, Lundrup Yongso, and we want to thank our Garchen Institute Lamas, Khenpo Tenzin and Lama Abu and Lama Bunima. Thank you so very much for all of your support in our practice. And we also want to thank our other visiting monastics from Korea. And thank you to Ani Dagme for your assistance. And of course, thank you to Ani Samten. And then we want to thank our translators. We want to thank Ina for translating for Garchen Rinpoche remotely. We really appreciate your excellent translation. And then we want to thank Virginia for translating for Yeshe Lama, empowering through not feeling well and translating anyway. So we really are grateful for your effort. And thank you to Lihi for your beautiful saying. And of course, we want to thank our staff for making this retreat run smoothly. Thank you to Elizabeth for her tireless service. Thank you to Mary for handling all the registration and so forth. And thank you to Michael for providing the live stream. To everybody participating online, thank you for joining in. And we thank Paul for making sure our power systems kept us warm and lights on. And thank you to Carrie, our cook, who is, this was her last day cooking for us is today. So please be sure to, yes, incredible nourishment that she's provided us here for over a year. And so we're sorry to see her go, but she's, as you know, going to be giving birth to her second child soon. And so, yeah, we're really thankful to Carrie and her husband, Billy, for all of his service here as well. And then we also thank our new cook, Jampa, for all of her service during this retreat. And thank you to Tricia for running the bookstore and keeping everything running smoothly there. So thank you to all of our devoted volunteers and everybody who did the Karma Yoga for this retreat. We all do it together. That's how we can make it work. So that concludes our auspicious start to the new year. Thank you, everyone.
Tare tu